Hello. There's no valid reference point for self or other. This is a really cool thing because all judgment, all opinion, all grievances, all blame, it all requires a reference point of self and or other. Um, really, this boils down to sort of what happens, what sprouts from identification. But I think it's important to notice the mechanism where selfing is always trying to reestablish a reference point. And if you can see that, like in order to have any belief in a thought, for example, it has to go to a reference point first. And then it has to reiterate that thought or reinforce that thought. See, it has to the self isn't it has no importance. It doesn't have any value. And so it constantly has to be inserting itself, always trying to reinsert itself back into what you look through, right? So really you're just what we are is just this it's just the looking, it's just the seeing, it's just the seeing of everything. And so the only thing that can change really is what we see through, the prism, the obstacles that we look through. And so the self is always trying to make itself relevant. It's the self is completely irrelevant, completely useless, completely irrelevant. So guess what it does all day long, 24/7, is it tries to make itself relevant. Like I said, tries to reinsert itself into your frame of reference, or what you're looking through, what you're seeing through. And it can't do that without planting a flag somewhere. Like, it doesn't just amorphously, it's the opposite of sort of meditative, sort of no center, right? The self has to have a center. Like all of its shenanigans, all of its operations have to have some kind of center. That center is ultimately self. It's self-centered, obviously. But every individual belief, judgment, complaint, projection, blame, etc. It's these it's these small centers, sort of like these. Are they small centers? Or is it the same center? That's a really good question. Is it, is there one center of self? Probably. There's probably one center of self because it's self-centered. But it shows up in this sort of this multitude of ways. Like here is a flag I'm planting. This is a reference point. And once I plant that reference point into a belief or into perspective, then it's self-reinforcing. So then I plant this flag. It really self-plants a flag. You see through it. And then it's self-reinforcing. So that person's an asshole because of blah, 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 backstory. I deserve this, that, and the other thing, and people should treat me this way and that way, etc. Without this point of reference, this can't happen, right? Without the reference point of self and the reference point of other, it's the same thing, actually. There's no reference point of other without that reference point of self. So as soon as there's one, there's the other, right? Then there can be blame, there can be right and wrong. Wow, it's such an interesting thing. So if you can see that flag getting planted before the belief in a thought, it like pops up before a thought. So, you can have awareness of a thought. And then there's awareness of a belief in a thought. The planting of the flag is definitely before the belief in a thought. Is it before the thought? Can you see a thought? Well, that's a good question. Can you see a thought before there's a belief in it? I think it depends on the thought. It depends on the kind of thought. So at the moment, I'm talking about the thoughts that have any level of identification with them, which is belief. Identification and belief are the same thing. Belief is just identification to a greater or lesser extent. When you completely identify with the thought, you will kill to protect your belief because it's you. You think it's you. Or to be really accurate, you're looking through a self having made itself 100% important. You're looking through that. And you're not seeing it clearly. There's just the tiniest sliver of belief, or the tiniest doubt, or what do you even call that? It's just the tiniest sliver of not seeing through it or taking it seriously that makes it seem like, excuse me, that you're believing in that thought, that you're identifying with something that isn't you. Yeah, such a cool thing. And perhaps a related thing is, perhaps not, something perhaps related, which is that we're used to, when we're living our lives, we're used to the self being a narrator, like always kind of narrating the story, and perhaps this is kind of a self-comforting thing of like, there's always a self kind of narrating the story. This is what's happening. I understand this and that and the other thing. These are the relationships with this, that, and that over there. So we have this narration, right? And then we also have where the self puts it in a place, it puts itself in a place of authority. And so that everything that, all input and everything you become aware of has to have the stamp of the authority of self, right? I mean, this is just something we take for granted. So it's like we get a new piece of information. We're like, oh, let me think about that. Yeah, thank you so much. Let me think about that. But really, it's like the head or the self is like, no, I need some time to digest that. I have to approve that thought. I have to improve that input. That's just how it is. So I need some time to self-reflect, right? And see if I want to allow that thought or not. And I'm probably not going to, because it's probably gonna, or I'm gonna, it can go either way, because the self can also stamp anything. It can put its stamp on anything good. You can say it could be a great non-duality insight, but self could come in and go, oh, I see. So let's see, what would be one? Let's take no self. Like you could have like an insight, like a no self insight, like to whatever depth. The self could come in and go, oh, I see. Let me conceptualize that. Okay. Let me wrap that up, frame it, boom, catalog it, right? Categorize that. Let me library that, boom. I know where that goes. It's over here. Self is bad. Got it. Self is bad. No self is good. Boom, I've got it. I've totally now have a reference point. I've planted a flag, right? I've got that reference point. Boom. No self is good. Now the self owns that. Well, it has a concept of it, right? It's just really owning is just a self-declaration. Like I've conceptualized that, and I have fitted in between all of my pre-existing conceptualized items. And I've Dewey decimaled it, and I've got it in got it in the card system, or the microfilm, or the whatever. Got it organized. It's all self-referential. It thinks it knows what this is. Boom. And once it's done that, planted that flag as a reference point to your new insight. Boom. Then it's just something else you see through, right? I mean, it is possible to let it do that and to see through that. Like, oh, that's interesting. But if you're not careful, if you don't see that flag planting and the ownership, you might not see through it to start with, or for a while. So anyway, just throwing that out for now. Perhaps watch for the self has to have a reference point for each of its actions, each of its graspings, each of its categorizations, each of its self-reinforcement activities. And what happens if you watch it do that? As neutrally as you can, like with as much clear seeing as you can allow for, or as can be allowed for. With that, I'm out.